Bonjour, Monsieur Breton.
Bonjour, good morning, everyone. Hello.
Yeah, good morning to everybody here now to the live stream of the Baden-Württemberg Economic Summit, a summit between Baden-Württemberg and Europe, actually. Actually, we were planned to be in Brussels, but the times have changed, so we are here, and we have Monsieur Thierry Breton. He is Commissioner from the European Commission for the internal market, industry, SMEs, defense, and space. Welcome here to our studio. And of course, we have the minister here who invited us all. It's Euro Economic Summit, Minister Dr. Hoffmeister-Kraut. She's Minister for Economic Affairs, Labor and Housing here in Baden-Württemberg. And we have Dr. Wolf also among us. Dr. Wolf is the chairman of Südwestmetall, which is a federation of employers in the metal and electronics industry of Baden-Württemberg, and he is CEO of the automotive supplier Elring-Klinger. Welcome to all of you, but a special welcome to all of you being online, being with us from Baden-Württemberg, Germany, Europe, and maybe the world, who knows. We will know soon and have a look who is all with us. Thank you for joining us in this session. It is the first of 4 sessions, and this one is about the topic, a European recovery plan for a sustainable, digital and resilient industry. So thank you also for all your input, and we will also ask you, who are our online participants, we will ask you for your opinion during our session here. We will have a special system which is called Menti, and you can go to the website and you get a code that you can join, and I will give you the sign when this will be open and when you can participate in that. So we start first with the opening statement of our Minister, Dr. Nicole Hoffmeister-Kraut. Please.
Thank you very much. Dear Commissioner Breton, dear Mr. Wolf, dear Mrs. Püchner, dear ladies and gentlemen, as the Minister of Economic, Housing and Labour of Baden-Württemberg, I welcome you to our Digital Economic Summit, Baden-Württemberg meets the European Union. We started our Economic Summit because our state is an integrated part of the European Union, both economically and politically. We want to share both our ideas about economic policy as well as the success stories from highly innovative businesses, big and small. I'm very glad that you, Mr. Breton, are joining us from Brussels today. You are not only the European Commissioner for Internal Market, but also an expert of the IT business, and it's a pleasant coincidence that we may begin this digital format with you. A very warm welcome to you, Commissioner Breton. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, our state home, Baden-Württemberg, is home to 11 million people and a modern, industrialized, export-oriented economy consisting of 500,000 companies that include well-known international corporations like Daimler, Porsche, Bosch or SAP. Yet the backbone of our economy are small and medium-sized companies, and we are proud to represent the German Mittelstand like few others. Relative to GDP, we spend more on research and development than almost every other region in Europe and indeed the world. It's 5.6%. Like everywhere in Europe, our economy was severely hit by the coronavirus crisis. Supply chains were disrupted and the demand on markets across the globe collapsed. This affected especially the automotive sector, which since generations forms an essential foundation of our industry. This sector has to cope with a challenging transformation even before the crisis hit. Moreover, while many small and medium-sized enterprises adapted with impressive speed and flexibility, large parts of the German Mittelstand encountered liquidity problems when cash flows disappeared overnight. We, the state government, are doing all we can to help firms cope with the crisis, to prevent a wave of bankruptcies and mass unemployment. We passed 2 major aid packages of several billion euros. Our emerging aid program provides smaller businesses with up to 30,000 euro as liquidity aid. And we are going to extend this program. Additionally, we are planning the creation of a state investment fund for small and medium-sized companies in order to support them in the upcoming recovery phase. It will back the equity of important firms and enable them to invest and expand at a crucial point in time. We will also mobilize considerable resources for the restarting of our economy. So far, we are able to avert the worst, but the situation is still dramatic, even as we are moving to a new normal or careful reopening. Mr. Breton, the European Commission released a proposal for a European recovery plan. This is a very important step, and I strongly support the Commission's vision of a sustainable, digital, and resilient industry. It's quite clear that this global crisis cannot be tackled only regionally or within national borders. Europe needs to find a common sense. Only if we all pull together can we lead Europe out of this crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hoffmeister-Kraut, giving already the word to Monsieur Breton, because you were mentioning the recovery plan that you offered yesterday as your proposal. It was called Europe's Moment, Repair and Prepare for the Next Generation, which I think is very interesting, very exciting, and so we are looking forward to hear what are your plans, Monsieur Breton, to get industry in Europe back and out of the crisis.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs. Minister, for your kind word and introductions. And I'm very happy to be with you today here from Brussels, and especially discussing with you, Minister and distinguished guest, from Baden-Württemberg, as you mentioned, which is one of our most vibrant industrial land, of course in Germany, but everywhere, as you said, in Europe. But of course, everyone has been eaten by the virus, and probably more or less equally. Of course, it depends of which kind of industry. So very quickly, we tried to identify the needs. To repair, as you mentioned, what is happening now. For every single sector of our industries, we call it ecosystem, industrial ecosystems. We have 14 industrial ecosystems within the whole EU. As you mentioned very well, Mrs. Minister, everything is fully integrated. We cannot speak anymore of a single region or a single country. The internal market is extremely integrated. And this is, by the way, what is making us strong. But of course, a lot of sectors have been just not yet destroyed, but put in a situation where some of them did not report any revenues for the past 2 months. And of course, this has a huge impact. So I welcome, by the way, first, what you have done immediately to tackle the issue. Including to inject liquidity, because this is a liquidity crisis first, before becoming a demand crisis. But it has been well done, I think, in your land, in some countries, but not as well done in other countries, and I will come back in 2 minutes on this. So the plan that we built has been designed at request of the member states. That tasked the Commission on the 23rd of April to make the assessment, and we have done this. And by the way, the need that we have globally identified to repair and relaunch the economy at the level of our continent is roughly around 10% of our European GDP, so around 1.6 trillion euro. And you will see that with what we proposed yesterday, we may reach these huge figures. And then, of course, course, the second task was to propose a solution. So the solution, again, as you have seen, is that the Commission proposed to go to the market and be able to issue debt with two packages. The first one is just to have an ability to deliver grants in those ecosystems, industrial ecosystems, sectors, geographies, which has been most eaten by the crisis. And this is the first envelope of 500 billion euros. And the second one is an envelope of 250 billion euros, where states could borrow to the Commission back to back to get access to liquidity at the state level if it's needed and if it makes them more able to move forward with their own needs. Just one word to answer to your question on the envelope of the 500 billion euros. So part of this is just for the repair side. To be very precise, it's 433 billion really for the repair side, and we may discuss a bit more in details where to intervene. In order to do this, every member state will have to come with our own recovery plan, and we will discuss with the Commission. And of course, the recovery plans must take in consideration what has to be repaired, but also how to relaunch the economy, thanks to our strategy, more digital, more green, and more resilient. And the remaining part, 67 billion, will be used to be able to put in guarantee this amount, and then using the leverage that we do with some program like InvestEU or program that you know very well, where we could again assist massively companies directly in order to help them in this recovery program, more green again and more digital, as I said, more resilient also. And this gives us another firepower together with a private investment between 500 to 700 billion. And that's again all together with, when you include also the 540 billion that the member states have already decided to put in place thanks to the MES, European Investment Bank, and the SURE fund, will allow us to reach the number I mentioned at the beginning.
Thank you very much. May I ask one question? I mean, this is a lot of money that we are talking about. How will it work? I mean, you need the agreement of the Parliament, of the Council. It has to be quick, I guess. So what are the expectations? In what time can we all agree? I mean, the member states.
That's a very, very important question, because of course we are in the crisis, and speed is extremely key. So again, member states are already doing things, and we encourage member states to do whatever they have to do immediately in order to support their own industry within their own countries, exactly like you did, of course. And I think the plan which has been designed by the German government was really appropriate. I said it, in order to support the industry, 356 billion euro, which have been, I think, voted by the Bundestag under the proposal of the Ministry of Finance and also Economy, and I think it's really appropriate. But some others cannot do it, so this is why in the process that we have ahead of us, we have two things, of course. First, this will be carried through the MFF, the European budget. So, of course, the Parliament, which is important because we are talking of a very big amount of money, as you mentioned, the Parliament will have, of course, to control it, which is good, like they do for the MFF. And this is why I think it's a good tool, which gives us a guarantee that things will be done exactly the way we worked on other programs. But before that, of course, as you know, or let's say in between, because this is a dialogue between the Parliament and between member states, the 27 member states have to accept and to support this proposal. Obviously, as you see, a very important step has been realized with the proposal made by the Chancellor and President Macron, which was extremely important, and I celebrate it myself because I think it's extremely important that both of these leaders are on the same page here. But of course, we are 27, so we need now to convey this program, which again embark fully the proposal of Chancellor Merkel and President Macron in order to convince the 27 member states. But I have good hope that we will succeed on this, and I may comment later on if you want. Then, of course, this will have to be approved by the 27 by the Parliament, European Parliament, of course, and we are in a very strong dialogue with the Parliament also, and this is roughly the figures that the Parliament had in mind, so I hope that we will get. We were yesterday in the Parliament together with President Ursula von der Leyen, and she of course presented this immediately after we took the decision of this proposal after our college. And if I see the main political leaders of the Parliament supported the proposal, but it is extremely important then that the European Parliament will have to adopt it, and then of course this will have to be adopted by the 27 parliaments from each of our member states. So this probably will lead to the beginning of January, hopefully the soonest. So in between, that just want to finish by this, that's very important. We have in our proposal what we call a solvency fund, which is a fund which may help some countries which do not have the fiscal space to intervene immediately and directly to support their own companies, like you did, for example, in Baden-Württemberg or elsewhere, like it has been done also in France. But some other countries don't have yet the fiscal space to do this. So this solvency fund, which is designed to be able to inject immediately if it's needed, under the control, of course, strict control of the Commission, and of course with everything I said before, in member states, to help directly some specific companies who may need to be both in equity or in guarantee, to have a bridge between now and between, of course, what will happen hopefully the soonest next year, early next year.
Thank you very much. This was quite important insight into the process. Dr. Wolf, it's about a lot of money, but also about a lot of tools, different tools and visions. You are from an automotive supplier company. How is the situation at the moment? How evaluated for you in the automotive sector, general in industries, the situation and this recovery plan?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Commissioner, Minister, to have the opportunity here to give a report from the automotive and the supplier industry. You know, I'm the president of the metal companies here in Germany, in Baden-Württemberg, and we have a lot of automotive industry and a lot of suppliers. Of course, members of our organization is Daimler, is Bosch, is Porsche, but the majority of the almost 800 members are small and medium-sized suppliers here with a long history, with a lot of family-owned businesses that have had a strong position. And you have to see, we were already in a transformation process towards, reducing CO2. There are a lot of regulations, EU regulations with regard to CO2 emissions. And now we have this big crisis where we really lose a lot of business because factories have been closed around the world. We all are global. We are working on a global basis, but our home is here, Baden-Württemberg, and we have a lot of people that are employed here in our industry in Baden-Württemberg. A lot of factories were closed, so we are losing a lot of business in 2020, and also in 2021 we see that the recovery is not coming back to the situation that we had in 2019. So the situation is really dramatic, and for us it is important that the EU and especially the European Commission sees that we care about climate. We care about CO2 emissions, and we have done a lot in our industry over the last 10 years, 15 years to reduce CO2 emissions. And one thing that is important for us, especially to recover, that we don't see additional, let's say, regulations that even enforce the issue CO2 emissions to further reduce that. It is already pretty hard to reach what we have to do until 2021. And now, we want to get back to the old strengths of the automotive and the supplier industry. And therefore, we need regulations that enable us to sell even more cars with combustion engines. The strong focus on e-mobility, and we have good solutions, we have good e-mobility solutions, but we need to recover in this industry a strong focus now also on the combustion engines. And we need premiums for people that they are going to buy cars. France already announced that. We are working on that here in Germany, but also on the EU level, it would be helpful if we talk about premiums like that, because not only France and Germany are important countries in Europe with regard to the automotive industry. Yeah, there is also Italy, there's Spain. There is, of course, some Eastern European countries where we produce cars, and we also have branches from our supplier companies. So we need support on EU level that people are going to buy cars, because if they don't buy cars, we cannot produce cars. And especially all the suppliers here in Baden-Württemberg are not able to produce parts to supply that to the auto industry. And we need that to keep the jobs safe, to keep people in jobs, and to avoid that we run into a real big unemployment here in Baden-Württemberg and also all over Germany. So that is essential. The car industry, the supply industry is essential for Baden-Württemberg, and we need support.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wolf, for these very concrete examples. We get back to this in a minute, but in between now, I'd like to address our online community. At the moment, we have more than 200 following our discussion here online. You have the chance now to give a vote on the topic, which topics of industrial policy should be in focus of the European Commission. Should it be the Green Deal, digitization, competition, future technologies, strategic autonomy, innovation, or others? So please use the code and what we show you, that you can enter with your iPhone, with your smartphone, and follow this follow the code, and then try to give your opinion. Thank you for that. We continue now with the discussion here, and we will listen to what our online community answered in a few minutes. Monsieur Breton, as you heard, there are multi-challenges, not just twin transition challenges. Actually, there are multi-challenges now, also with the COVID-19 outbreak. So what is the reaction from the Commission? How do you support concretely our companies?
No, thank you very much for your comments, Dr. Wolf, because this is exactly why I think we have been able to convince at least I think a lot of our member states that it was appropriate, including of course France and Germany, to have this proposal, because this is exactly how we worked. And we worked industrial ecosystem per industrial ecosystems. And of course, we started with the one who have been the most hit by the crisis. You can think, of course, of tourism and everything related. The second one is definitely automotive industry, which is so important for Baden-Württemberg, as you mentioned, 800 in your association, 800 members, with a very strong Mittelstand of very good companies, family-owned from sometimes many generations, a tremendous know-how. So we need, of course, to preserve this. It is extremely important, of course, for the automotive industry, but it is extremely important for the whole ecosystem and the whole supply chain, because as you mentioned extremely well, everything is interconnected. So, you know, I had many discussions myself with automotive industry ecosystem, where we had a representative from all over Europe, big companies, small companies, SMEs, suppliers, retailers, and R&D centers, and I held myself many of these meetings. It was extremely important to me to understand exactly what Dr. Wolf said, and again to calibrate what is needed, in order again to maintain what is extremely important for us, which is the integrity of the internal market and the integrity of these supply chains ecosystem, which are, as you mentioned, Dr. Wolf, fully integrated. In other words, if a company just go bankrupt in Baden-Württemberg or in northern of Italy with an important supplier of the car industry, it could affect everyone now. And I had a lot of examples, and you have also a lot of examples. So this is why it is important to understand that we are all together here. It's not only to preserve one company, one sector in one region. It is just to preserve and to help to develop / transform the whole automotive industrial ecosystem within the EU. And you mentioned it very well. It started before the crisis. We know this extremely well. And this is why we design in our fund an ability, again, to help member states within their own programs. And again, they start to do it, as you mentioned it. They start to do it in France, I think in Germany, in other countries. They have to do it immediately. They could go back to the commissions, and then to discuss with us when it will be available to refinance and to help. So our advice is to do it immediately, member state per member state, and of course then, through our whole ecosystem approach, industrial ecosystem, we'll be able to reconcile this. But of course, we are in intense dialogue, and we have some quote-unquote guidelines, because what has to be done is true everywhere. To include all our, let's say, new objectives or KPIs related to the Green Deal, and there's a lot of transformations, of course, that the car industry is going through, to integrate much more digitization within the industry. It started before, but this will be, of course, maybe an accelerator, and also to see. You know, there is a lot of debate now in Europe saying that we may relocalize part of things which have been done outside of Europe through the crisis or after this crisis. Probably it's true for some of them, but not for all of them, of course. So we have here to be pragmatical, but it may be part. It may be also part of the equation. So in a nutshell, we have two kinds of supports. One, of course, will be first to be able to help all these retailers and car industries. We have millions of cars now waiting on parking lots all over Europe, and because the demand is not here yet. So definitely yes, we will need to have some state support. So we try to see if we could have the same kind of state support. Maybe it could be also linked with our objective for the next generation car being more green. So we are thinking of that. We have some ideas. We are exchanging also with the a representative of car industries within all our industrial ecosystems. In other words, with every single member state. We need then, of course, to help them for the transformation, more green, more digital. So these programs are here, the tools are here, but of course, in between, we strongly encourage member states to do it, and I know that you are doing this in Baden-Württemberg, and I think it's extremely important. And then, of course, do not. It's a lot of money, but you will be able to through the programs to come back to us and to refinance when it will be needed. That's why we just want to send the signal. That's a lot of money, but we are putting in place the tool at the level of EU to go back to refinance what you will do, as long as, of course, it fits well with the strategy that we just mentioned. But we know that, especially in the car industry, you share this strategy. So this is how we stand here.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. This topic is really very important. It's important also for our online community. We learned this from the questions that were raised before our discussion. I'd like to hand over to our minister again. Your ministry has fulfilled an enormous job in the last weeks, creating new support mechanisms and tools, framework conditions. What are the major issues you like to stress now towards the European Commission?
Thank you very much. Yeah, Baden-Württemberg, we are the home to a large number of hidden champions, highly innovative SMEs that are often specialized and market leaders in their segments. These firms have been innovating for generations and are often at the core of local ecosystems that include application-oriented research institutions. They embody the innovative spirit that Europe needs. Their history shows that innovation, growth, and employment cannot be ordered from above. It needs to grow organically. State institutions should not pick a winning technology. Our efforts in the transition of digitization and more sustainability should focus on enabling companies to reach these aims, not forcing them to use a certain technology. Moreover, in our experience, these smaller firms are crucial when it comes to spreading innovation throughout the region. This doesn't mean that technology flagships are not important. They are very important as well, of course. Let me just mention our Cyber Valley consortium of research institutions and companies. But we must build on SMEs in order to successfully combine the economic recovery with digitization and sustainability. Regulatory burdens often create much higher barriers for them. The EU SME strategy and the EU industrial strategy both mention this aspect, and it's important that the Commission follows through with announcements. Mr. Breton, I'd like to add 2 thoughts on the recovery process. First, we should invest where there's a lot of potential to boost Europe value chains and create jobs and growth across Europe. Europe must become a leader in future technologies. We need to massively increase our investments in technologies like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, e-mobility, hydrogen technologies, health industry, or biointelligent systems. We need to use the IPCEI instrument more, and we need to form common European projects in order to keep up with the international competition. Second, we should use the potential of the countless small and medium-sized enterprises. We can help them grow and expand so they can be the European champions of tomorrow. This should include a reduction of regulatory borders and burdens that hamper growth. I welcome the plan of the European Union to support firms tackling the dual challenge of digitization and greater sustainability. We can add to these measures by investing in our existing strengths, which include the machinery sector and especially our leading industry, the automotive ecosystem, with millions of employees all over Europe. The automotive industry, with its huge supply chain, remains a key driver of innovation and employment across Europe. It can lead the way both in the restarting of our economy as well as the transition to more sustainability. As part of the European recovery effort, the European Union could offer an innovation incentive for every purchase of a modern low-emission car. The criteria should be based on the emissions produced. This is what counts ecologically, and it ensures an economically fair and efficient process. And I really appreciated that you mentioned that we have to focus on the demand, that we have to create instruments to make more demand all over Europe, especially in that sector, but also, of course, we have to look at the other sectors as well. But as it's our leading industry right now, we have to do something. In Europe, we are discussing several instruments, so it's very interesting what's in the focus on the level of the European Union.
Thank you very much to our minister. Dr. Wolf, what is your reaction on that? What are the important tools, or is the focus innovation? Would you agree to that? How the minister explained it, which I think is very important to have the focus on that.
Well, if you look at the automotive and the supplier industry, especially in Baden-Württemberg, we have been very innovative over the last 10, 15, 20 years. We would not be as successful as we are and have been before this crisis if we would have not been innovative. A lot of innovations come from Baden-Württemberg, come from Germany, and come especially from Europe. The European auto industry is the most innovative auto industry that we have in the world. And I think in this transformation process that we are in, we have to see that we keep this position. That is essential for Europe. That is essential for the wealth of the people in Europe. It's essential for the whole industry in Europe, that the European car and supplier industry keeps this position being leading in innovations. That means that we have to work on new systems, new propulsion systems. We have to work on, battery technology. We have to work on hydrogen technology, fuel cell technology. We do that. We work on that. But we have to finance this, and we need money to finance all those programs to keep us in this leading position in Europe, in the car and the supply industry. And that's why we have to sell parts as suppliers, and we have to sell cars as auto industry. And now, being hit by this corona crisis really hard, we need support, and we need help also on the European level, that we can earn this money in the next 5-10 years to bring our innovative programs forward and keep this position, this innovative position, this leading position in technology here in Europe. And that's why we need those programs that support people, that they buy cars. When we sell cars, we earn money, and then we have money to bring this innovative process forward and keep this leading position in Europe with regard to new propulsion systems, what we need. Because one thing I have to make it clear again, protection of the climate is very important for the automotive and the supply industry. We always have this on our mind. We had it 10 years ago, and we still have it, and we will have it in 10 years. But we need also to sell cars, and we have cars available with real clean combustion engines. The European auto industry has the most efficient and the cleanest combustion engines in this world. And if we are able to sell that, and we are able to earn money with that, then we will be on the right path to be the innovative industry in the world here in Europe. We think European, we act European, and now in this special situation, we need the support of the European Union, of the European Commission, and if we see a situation that we will have even more strict regulations with regard to emissions, I really doubt that we can keep this position that we have right now, being the most innovative industry in the car industry and supply industry in the world. And that is what I think we should focus on, that, we have to see climate is important, and we need some more space to reach those regulations that are in place, especially in this situation with Corona now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wolf, for this clear statement. Monsieur Breton, in a second, you will have the chance to answer and reply to that. First, let's have a look at our Menti system. What are the results? The result is that Green Deal is on the first place. Now, we can see it. Yeah. So Green Deal is the major point that was, clicked. This is interesting because the Green Deal is also, especially in Germany, sometimes an issue where people have different views on it, so this is very interesting. The second one is digitization, then competition policy, future technologies, strategic autonomy and innovation. Innovation is the last point, but I think innovation is in all these points. I mean, Green Deal cannot be done without innovation, and innovation is also part of the industry strategy, and it's a focus, saying in the industry strategy of your commission, Commissioner Breton, saying that innovation is a key. So what you have heard here from the minister and from Dr. Wolf must be something which is completely in your line. So we have the chance now to have the final statements, and we start with you, Monsieur Breton, please.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for your statement, Mrs. Minister, Dr. Hoffmeister, and Dr. Wolf, because first I fully agree with something which is extremely important. If we look at what happened over the past, let's say, century, car industry has definitely been driven innovations. And you know, it's funny, you mentioned that I had, of course, a previous life before being a commissioner, and in my previous life, when I was in charge of IT and technology, I said to my team, because at the beginning of this century, a lot of engineers were saying, oh, you know, nothing is happening now anymore in car industry, and now we need to move to digital or something like that to look for innovation, which will change the world. And guess what? We just realized that through the Green Deal and through digital, the car industry is again leading this transformation, because this is where we need to be the most innovative, where we need to invest at most, including, by the way, both in terms of producing, manufacturing, including with everything which is related to 5G networks and everything with Industry 4.0 or beyond, and that's a lot of change that we will have to implement, and of course in terms of products, and of course also in terms of usage. It's probably true that you don't use a car today that the same way you use in previous years or tomorrow. So I mean, what is extremely important, yet I am absolutely convinced, thank you of course, that automotive industry will continue to be extremely important, to innovate and to lead important innovations, both in digital. By the way, now when you in a car you have a small supercomputer or small HPC in each car with being able to run teraflops of data, which was the largest computer 15 years ago in each and single car. And by the way, the electricity that you will need will be as important to run all the information driven by cars than to be able to run the car. So I mean, we know that here we have a lot of things to innovate, both in terms of, again, of technology, digital, but also producing. And also, this is why I like what you said about hydrogen, about all these kind of things, Mrs. Minister, and especially using all the tools that we have in place here, like IPCI, but other tools. And of course, we will launch this. We did this for battery. We are doing this, as you know, for hydrogen, but we are ready to do this also for new industrial data strategy, especially for automotive industry, for some specific platforms used also for automotive industry. So we have here the tools in place. I think we share the same vision. And as a last comment, we have the money now. If member states and parliament accept our proposal, we will have the money, we will have the programs to help again here, to invest, because I agree with you. When we look again at the crisis today, lack of demand, almost zero revenue over the past 2 months for many sectors, including in automotive industry, or maybe in some countries minus 90%, minus 80%, or something like that. The lack of demand. Need to relaunch it, but also as you maybe, of course you know this like me, and probably better than me. Lack of investment. Now, unfortunately, we stopped investment. Including in automotive industry, and we need to relaunch it immediately. And for this, we have again these tools. Part of the repair side may be used or will be used for that, and part of the more long-term programs where we will be able to co-invest with companies to enhance those innovations. Final point on the Green Deal, that's number one for on your screen. It will make my colleague Mr. Timmermans very happy. We have some targets, 2030, 2050, and of course we don't change these targets. That's very important. But of course now we have to cope with the crisis as a priority, at least this year and next year. We have to, if I may say so, find buyers for these cars, the ones who are still waiting here, and then of course to adapt ourselves to this very situation. But of course we keep the targets 2030 and 2050 the way they are. In between, we have to cope with this very situation, and of course, I will stand next to you to do from where I am everything to help, because again, as I said at the beginning of my intervention, I know how in terms of innovation this industry is important, and will continue again to drive innovation probably for the next decades.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Breton. I hand over for a final statement to our Minister.
Yes, thank you very much. We have heard a lot about the Commission's plans for the economic recovery. Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Breton. There are many good ideas how the European economies can return to their old strengths and can be set on course, enabling them to master our current challenges. And I agree with you. We have to cope with the crisis right now, and we have to make the right decisions for the situation we are in right now. And of course, the goals we have set regarding the climate change, we still have in focus, and we do all and a lot to reach them. But of course, the economy has to be able to reach them as well. So we have to enable them, we have to support our economies in that corona crisis. Now it's important that the institutions on all levels, as you also said before, the European, the national and the regional level, that we all pull together and start acting quickly. I believe that in the long run, Baden-Württemberg and the European Union can emerge stronger from this crisis. That must be our main goal. The recovery effort returns our focus on some fundamentals. Companies need the financial means to restart their operations after the crisis. We need to support them in coping with the twin transition of digitization and sustainability. And this also means we need to leave them breathing space. Overly detailed regulation is not helpful. Our companies are good. Let's enable them to reclaim the ground lost in the crisis and seize the chances offered by these transformative times. Dear Commissioner, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us and joining us in this digital format. The Economic Summit will continue for the audience this afternoon and tomorrow. It was an honor for us that you joined us. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best and success.
Thank you very much, Minister. Monsieur Breton, could you stay in the line even after we close the live stream? Thank you. Yeah, to all of you who listened, and I hope that all of you enjoyed it, because we got a real good insight into what was discussed and proposed yesterday. We got the views here from the automotive industry, from our minister, and I think it really was a very good start of the Economic Summit. Thank you for being with us. The Next Generation EU, this is a wording which opens a window for the future. It opens ideas for a better EU. I like this term very much when I heard it yesterday, Next Generation EU, because it means that we all have to get involved and build together this future. It implies the economic sector, but it also implies the whole of society. So stay on board for a repaired and prepared European Union. Thank you for participating. Thank you for staying with us, and also join in this afternoon again. Thank you.